Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Indian Content Playbook, where we talk about everything content. Today we're going to talk about an episode which is very close to our hearts. It's an episode by Colin and Samir, and it talks about, they give out the advice like it's a summary video where they tell you what they would do if they started a YouTube channel all over again. Let's dive in.
I want to start off today's episode with a hot take.
Okay.
So I was watching this video yesterday, and after I watched it, one single thing came to mind, which was the fact that Beer Biceps is eventually getting into politics, if not a really high position.
Okay.
So he was doing a studio tour. Right?
Okay.
So he was showing everyone about his like little studio that he's made. And this is different from like his corporate office where his influencer talent management company, and I think he has like a production company or agency that sits.
Right.
It's like his creative studio only. And he's walking you through all of it. He's telling you everything. And he's showing these clips, right? He's showing that, hey, like we're doing puja and like my entire team is doing this puja with me. And, you know, like we have a spiritual aspect. And if you're not spiritual, like you won't, you know, be the best fit here.
Correct.
Things like
I've
that.
seen that post where the homa is happening. He had broken his leg. He's sitting on the chair and doing the homa.
So, is that why? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's doing all of that, right?
Yeah.
So he's showing each room and he's showing like, hey, this is the theme of the room. And, you know, it's like, this is where the editors sit and it's like a warrior spirit. And, you know, like the cupboards are camouflage, design and things like that.
Okay.
And he's essentially using that as a way to like plug his course, right? So he's like, oh, this is where the editing happens. By the way, we have this editing course and, you know, that you can.
Crazy.
And he's like, oh, this is where like the reach out team, he has like 4 people in his reach out team, right? For his guests. I don't know, he records every day, which is kind of insane.
He records every day.
Yeah, he records a podcast every day. Or that's what he said. He meets guests 7 days a week.
Yeah, I think he does it in sprints. Like he does a sprint.
Maybe, could be.
Basically 1 full week he's just doing podcasts.
Right. So he's doing that, right? And he's telling all of this and he's like plugging these things in. And the entire vibe was almost as like, have you ever made like a VSL? Like a video sales letter?
Yeah.
It felt like that. Like it didn't feel like a studio tour. It felt like a studio tour with like inbuilt ads. And the only somehow that feeling that I was getting throughout watching that video was, this guy is not going to stop.
Okay.
And media is just the tip of the iceberg. And I was getting really strong like
politician,
like politician, like this is like the mini version of his speech, you know, like 10 years down the line vibes from him. My point is that the influence and the power in making content is so big, right? That Ranveer is still, he's I think way ahead of the curve here. He started off 9 years ago. But now that more and more people are getting into content, I think the amount of leverage that you can create, right? It is immense.
True.
Which is why it's incredibly important for you to have content creation as like one of these tools in your arsenal.
True.
Which will, you know, help you kind of move things forward in this new age India, where everyone has access to internet and, you know, everyone has like a camera in their phone and things like that. So I just thought that was like a really interesting thing for you know,
I mean, considering like the amount of deals that is happening in content, I mean, like if we think like USA is ahead of the curve, the kind of contracts that the people there are making, like it need not be specific to YouTube. Even Spotify, like they're pushing out offers. I mean, I was really surprised with Dude Perfect's offer that happened with YouTube, which is 100 mil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know about this.
Yeah, they had a $100 million deal. Mm-hmm. They signed with Dude Perfect. I don't know the exact details, but the idea was like they will make it very official. Like they'll continue making this.
Colin Samir put out this video titled 13 Years of YouTube Knowledge in 46 minutes, right? And I remember we were having a conversation maybe like 2-3 days ago when we were trying to figure out what we're going to talk about in this episode. And I had just watched that video in office that day.
Right.
And I was just like, fuck man, this is amazing. Yeah. Like we need to talk about this,
yeah.
right? So what we want to go through is just quickly talk about the things that really resonated with us in this video, because I have a bunch of notes. I see you have a bunch of notes.
Yeah.
And talk about what of those ideas, where did we see it in our own journey?
Right.
Because the one thing that I have realized is that my creator journey has been very experimental until this year. So I started making content in 22.
Okay.
And I haven't made that many videos. I've made like maybe close to 50, 60 videos. Myself, I've made like only 30, 40 for my own channel. And I've made like a bunch more for other people. But I would still say I'm on the younger side of like my creator lifespan, right?
Yeah.
So when I go through this, and especially now when people in 2024 talk about what it takes to grow on YouTube, they talk about it not from like a creative lens,
right,
which they used to, 3, 4, 5 years before. They talk about it from a business lens, right? So it's more marketing oriented, analytics oriented than just, hey, like how to make a great video, how to like set up short and things like that.
Yeah, I think the trend has changed from how to make a great story that works. Not like that works, how to make a great story to how do you get more views on YouTube.
Exactly. So like something that converts, right? Either you get more AdSense or, you're able to sell something.
Yeah.
So I think we both will have different stories, different perspectives here.
True.
So let's jump right in. What was, I think the first thing we talked about last night that really stood out for you from that video? What was it?
Bro, in the video, I think the first thing that really stood out is Super Mario effect. I think how like Mark Rober spoke about it specifically. I think he put the whole thing in brilliant words.
The Super Mario effect is basically like, no one ever plays Super Mario Brothers or some video game for the first time. It falls into a pit and just like, oh my gosh, I fell into a pit. I failed. How embarrassing. I never want to play this game again. You're like, no, okay, crap. There's a pit right there. Okay, next time I'm going to come a little bit faster. I'm going to jump a little earlier. You immediately learn from the failure and you're like stoked to try again. Mm-hmm. And so that's very much my philosophy. If you can gamify your challenges and think of them like a video game, you can learn so much more, you can have more success and have fun while doing it.
Your ability to show the difficulties you faced and how you overcame that, actually that is what people want to watch. It's not exactly like, oh, pitfalls, this, that. It's a simpler way of saying things, I feel. But why would you, like, if you watch a Mark Rober video, you won't be able to stop until the end. And there are so many things that happen throughout the video. Like any video you take, he starts with a problem. I want to do X. I want to make the biggest water gun. I want to make the smallest Nerf gun. He starts with a problem. Then he talks about the current available technology and what can happen and how he developed the idea of being able to do X. Then comes the problems. So generically the X problem is done in this sense, but on this scale this doesn't work. Like any of his video, I think that's the problem, but there is no current solution for it. And because obviously he has that research background, he definitely explains you what are the available options that you have and what they pick to do. Then they progress, they build a model, then again they face a problem, which is XYZ things and what it's called and all that. Like, I think his ability to show his problem and how they overcome it or how they cross that hurdle, that's what really helps stand out.
Right.
And I think everybody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to know if you are like doing X things, Y things. I think that becomes irrelevant if you're not involved with what is happening.
I don't know if you know this, but this is a very popular storytelling framework, right? So I remember it once I was in like this workshop conducted by Colin and Samir. And they told me this, that the reason exactly what you explained, it's called the then but approach or the so but approach, right? So how it works is you create the setup, but then you create conflict using the word but, right? So in your case, it would be, hey, I want to create the smallest Nerf gun, but the technology doesn't exist.
Right.
So I'm going to do this, but so the story moves forward because at each point you have a conflict,
right,
and then you are overcoming that conflict,
right,
and then you're showing the process, and then you're creating another conflict, and that's how you keep going forward.
Right.
There's another really popular creator, Jenny Hoyos.
Yeah.
Have you seen her? She's like a little Mexican girl, like oiled hair, and like she'll make these crazy videos that go mad viral. Yeah. So she was also in the workshop. Fun fact, I actually know her, like I don't know her anymore, but like we were in the same workshop, same like 4-member team.
Okay.
And she had like 0 followers, 0 subscribers.
Yeah?
Yeah. And
you have her mail ID then.
Yeah, I think I have her on like Slack or Discord or something. But obviously, like, I didn't take her seriously. I was like, "Arey,
Mexican
like,
dude, oil hair,
papam girl, like, what is she doing?" And then she ends up going and killing it, absolutely killing it.
True.
But it's very interesting that the way that you interpret the Super Mario effect was something that you do in the video.
Right.
The way I thought of it was something that you do outside of the video, right? Important fact that Colin mentioned is that you need to make the process of making content as easy and simple as possible, right? Simply because it's a long game.
It's a marathon,
right?
basically.
Yeah. And you have to get like your first 100 videos in, and like without which you can never be successful.
True.
And I want to make a video on this topic also called like I call it the Valley of Death.
The Valley of Death. Okay.
So it's when you start making content. So let's say you make the first episode, right?
Okay.
And everyone is like super happy about it. Like you are super pumped. This is like us 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, bro.
And we're like so excited that hey man, we're gonna kill it. This is so cool. And we share it to all our friends, and all your
like,
friends are also excited.
Bro,
dude,
this is
fucking
super cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then it gets a ton of attention.
Yeah.
Right? People from WhatsApp are clicking on it, your friends, your family, everyone.
True.
Then you make the second episode.
And
which is
I feel at one point I want to add, and because you have showed to so many people, you have hyped it so much also. I think you were expecting like I'll get like 20-30 views, but you end up getting way more than that.
Yeah. So you end up surpassing your expectations and you're really happy, right? And then you do the second episode.
Yeah.
And you do the second episode and it does well, but not as much as you expected because you thought the views would go up, but they kind of went down. Yeah. But you're like, okay, you know what? It's fine. I'll do the third episode. It's gonna kill it. And you do the third episode and the views go down drastically. Like it's totally opposite to what you expected.
Yeah.
And then you kind of very confused, right? Because you thought, hey, I came out the gate so good. Like, why is this not working? And that's when the decline starts, right? The fourth episode is worse. Fifth is generally the one that does like the worst. You get like single digit views. No one gives a shit. Like you're sitting somewhere and you mention it to a friend, bro, my episode did bad. And he's like, bro, you're still doing it. Huh? I didn't know this. Right? So, and then that's the point when most people give up. I know because that was me. Right. Like my podcast did not last more than 5 episodes, right?
Okay.
Not because I gave up, but like it just like I didn't have
something was like not working. Correct. You were also not
like
sure.
My locus of motivation was not internal; it was external, right? Like I did not get validation, so I stopped doing it.
Okay.
We will not do that in this podcast.
Yeah.
But that is the valley of death, right? And that is the reason why everyone says, Mr. Beast, Colin Samir, everyone says that you have to make your first 100 videos.
True.
Because unless you can make videos for yourself and you know that, hey, I have a purpose for which I'm making content, and we'll get to this eventually, but it doesn't matter if I go viral. I just want to be seen by the right people. Right. And that's when you can kind of exercise that muscle and the resilience that is needed as a creator. Like you imagine any of these people, right? Colin Samir or Beer Biceps or Mr. Beast, like they've made hundreds of videos that no one watched.
True.
But they still made it.
And I feel that like really starts ticking the right boxes. Like you stop going after like who is watching to what do I want to make? Because it's art for somebody who's doing the video.
Correct.
And like for somebody like me who's doing a video, it's art for me. And I think going from that external validation to making art, I think that transition has to happen first. Then your videos will start working.
Correct.
Because my videos, if it doesn't make me happy, I don't think it'll make anybody happy.
Exactly. And that's where the Super Mario effect comes, right? You have to make it as easy as possible. So if we are trying to do, like, when did we start? You came over like 2 hours ago, right? It took us solid 90 minutes just to set up.
Yep.
Right?
And we were thinking also like, okay, what goes where? How do we set this up?
And this was better than last time.
Yep.
Right? Last time was worse. Right? So if I was doing this myself, I would pull my hairs out.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of hair, by the way. Okay. Like it's thinning. So it's bad.
Yeah. But I think it's the same with me also. If it was just
even
me,
if you were doing it
like,
alone, like, it's very overwhelming. Right? So probably if anyone that's listening to this, they are trying to do something similar. This is not the level of production that they should be looking at. Right?
Yeah, because we have access, we are able to do this.
Exactly.
I don't think there is any
and we
way.
really want to do it.
Yep.
Right? So this is probably not the format that they should be looking at. They should be looking at something else that's a lot more easier to do. Because if the friction is really high, then you wouldn't want to do it like every day.
Yeah.
That's one. That's where the Super Mario effect comes. But the second step that they mentioned was your why, right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of what you touched up upon was like, why are you making this content? Like, so if you don't have like a very intrinsic motivation of, hey, like I want to do this for money, or I want to do this for my brand, or I want to just do it for myself for a creative pursuit, right? You will not be able to do it long term. Then it can't be a means to an end. It has to be a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But what do you think about, like, how do you think about content, and like, why do you make content?
See, like how do I make money is because I own a bunch of this shit, and also it's because I like shooting.
Right.
Like that's something that I've liked for the longest period. I think that's the first things that I realized that I like. Like I like going out, I like shooting. That's something that I realized. I worked on it, became better. That's what pay my bills, which is good, thankfully. But content, I think it's a little more closer because I have worked with so many people doing content. And one thing I really enjoyed is being that small part of making content. It's like being involved in that pre-production that really changed things. Because I think I've mentioned this with you also. I used to work with
I was going to ask you about
fitness
that.
fitness instructor called Devrat Vijay, Ninja Dev. I mean, Dev, if you are watching, bigger content man bus. But yeah, so it was one of the best times that I've had like working because we used to sit. He used to brainstorm ideas about we can do videos about XYZ. Technically, the most sound guy I've ever come across when it comes to fitness. And I used to help him write because we used to predominantly work on Instagram, and it's not very thumbnail or
production heavy.
No, it's not very thumbnail or title driven.
Okay,
because like the discovery happens through scrolling.
Right.
So I never worked on title or the thumbnail. But one thing that really had to work was hook. So I started writing hooks specifically for those videos and sort of connecting. In fact, the first video that I actually worked with him did worse than what his videos used to do. Like that really like questioned my ability to do things because I was thinking, yeah, I'll do the video. This will work 10 times better than what his videos are. His videos are just phone shot. Like, I mean, my idea was like, yeah, if we do it on a camera, it'll do 100 times better.
Of course, it'll do better. Yeah.
Of course, it should do better. Then we did everything. We pushed out the first video. In fact, it did 4 times worse than his regular. Bro, like his regular videos were very simple, like very static. Obviously, his movements were great, but nothing exceptional happening in the video, but it still did that worse. The first video I put, I was like, maybe like because the audience finds it different, blah, blah, blah. Second video we put out still did worse. Third video put out, that's when like my really, like it got on my nerves and like, is this actually like the right way to do it? But then actually I started researching on, okay, the different fitness creators, what they do. Like, and one thing I understood is, okay, visual quality is a means to an end. Like it's good to have visual quality, but it's not the most important thing.
It's the cherry on top, not the sundae.
Yeah, exactly. And I was the visual guy. So for me, it became like, oh shit. But then while doing this, I really got into the process of how they wrote hooks. I'm like, oh, this is how they write hooks. Oh, this is how they write the body. Oh, this is how you structure. Then I started understanding the structure of the video. That really changed the ballpark.
So how did you do that? Because this is one of the points that they talk about in the video, right? That like title and hooks and thinking about the story structure of how your video is kind of paced or like this, the entire strategy of it. So what was that process like, the research process?
Me personally, what I think is people give you advice on, okay, this is how you do research, this is how you do things. But I think that's the starting point of how you do it, how you will start doing things. So first, one thing that I realized is you need to have a great hook. That hook needs to connect to your body and you need to have a great call to action.
Okay.
Those are the first 3 things that I learned. Once I understood like hook will do 50% of the heavy lifting that is with the video. Like if your hook is not working, it'll definitely not work. That's something that I really understood.
Okay.
Because we did hit a couple of videos which hit like a few million views. That's when I understood hook will make or break how the video performs.
Okay.
But after that, it's all about trial and error, I feel, and trial and getting feedback on how how it's being viewed. It's like, I did an X video, it went in an X way. You start pulling on assumption as to, okay, like what have went well depending on the captions. You start reading captions, like comments on the videos. You start realizing what people actually liked in all of that. And once you have read enough captions, you will understand also until what they have watched and until what they felt interesting. Like what are the points that actually hit.
Got it.
And a general consensus is like at a specific time frames, it'll start hitting people. You mark it out on your video, you will understand, okay, here it's hitting, here it's hitting, here it's hitting. What is happening in between? Did I make important points that went over somebody's head? Then you come back and see, okay, this was my video. This is it, this is it, this is it. But there are two more important points that did actually not come across. Why did it not come across?
Right.
There'll be a very logical reason. You might be pacing it too fast. You might be pacing it too slow. Something is going wrong, which you'll have to figure out. And slowly, once you have done enough videos, you start realizing, like after the hook, I think this is something that actually works. And I think the experimenting never stops.
Right.
You keep experimenting. Okay, the hook went this way. You do a happy hook, you do a sad hook, you do like other hooks. And you sort of start to build that muscle of, okay, hook aisa banega, to
Right.
is this the hook? What is the next thing going to be?
No, makes sense. Actually, that's a great point to something that I want to touch up upon. Is that I've highlighted this quote from the video, right? Where I think Colin goes that success is just the opportunity to do more of what you're already doing, which I think speaks volumes about the entire content creation process.
True.
Because unlike other professions, it's not discrete. It's continuous, right? Like it doesn't have an end. It's not that let's say you're creating a product or you're building something. Hey, like we've built it. Okay, like this is a milestone. It's done. On a side note, so I just found like a really cool tool that I want to plug.
Okay.
So it's called GLASP, right? GLASP.
Okay.
And it can do a lot of things. People can go look it up. But if you want to look at all the notes that we have created, more or less, for this entire video, you can just go to glasp.co/Adil.
Okay.
And you can see all the. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Right? It's not paid. No, like it just. Like I really like the product. That's why I want to give it a shout out.
We will attach it.
We'll put a link in the description.
And we'll put it on the screen. Just so it's easy.
So anyway, the quote goes that success is just the opportunity to do more of what you're already doing.
True.
Right? Which is so symbolic of like the creative process is because there's no result. Like there's no like, hey, I'll build a startup and I'll sell it. Right? And then it's done. It's a constant process. And if you don't like making videos today, you will not like making videos tomorrow when you are successful because you just have to do more of it. Right? Like you'll have more volume, more channels, like higher production.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the bare bones process that you can do today, you won't like it tomorrow. So you don't do it. That's one. But what you said about researching and finding like the hooks and niche and all of that analysis, right? This was actually something that they mentioned in their video also, which is I think parts 3 and 4, which is perform a niche analysis, right? And this is something that I had no idea about when I started making content. Like when I went viral with Gyan Central, I had like, it was literally me just talking about...
Before we just like dive deep into this, what was the first video that actually went viral with Gyan Central?
So I went back and looked at this a few days ago, and I put out like 15 videos that got just a few thousand views, which is still a big deal, right? I had like a really old Instagram handle that I had repurposed.
Right.
And I had maybe like a few hundred followers, less than 1,000. And in a few videos, I got like 3,000, 4,000 views. And I was like, fuck, man, this is great.
Yeah.
And I think it was the Hotstar. No. So I made a video about Sapiens, like, you know, the book by Yuval Noah Harari. So I made this video and like I still remember I was in my bed, I was reading and I read this part and I was like, fuck, dude, this is amazing. We got to make a video. So I just got up, wrote a script, recorded it.
Right.
And then edited it in 2 days and pushed it out. And I think that was one of my most viral videos, which got like over 2 million views, which is insane. Right? And the thing was like, I could literally see what you were saying from comments. I could see that like every 6 months it would go viral again.
Oh,
like it would be like 500,000 views, and then like it would kind of get a few thousand,
True.
and then it would again get like hundreds of thousands, and then it would die down, and it was like this ebbs and flows. And I could see that in the comments why it went viral. So at one point, like a lot of red pill people, Andrew Tate types, they came in saying that, oh, women, this, women, that. Then at one point, people started saying, oh, you've copied this from this thing, Sapiens. Oh, I know this is, you're not. So it was that. Okay. And then another point was something else. So it's really interesting to like be able to map why it has gone viral at one point. But come back to like the niche analysis part. When I started doing this, right? And when I was joining my current job, they asked me this, that, hey, like, did you have a process behind these videos? And I tried to make something up, but I was like, no, dude, like I just made shit that I thought was cool. And that is actually not the way to go.
True.
Yeah, you need to like be a lot more surgical about it, right? Which is exactly what you said. You need to understand what creators who are like you, who you aspire to be, who share the audience that you want to tap, right? This is like the market research that you do. Let's say if you want to be a food channel on YouTube, then what other food channels are there? One, what are they making? And do like a extremely deep dive, like to the extent of what do their titles look like? How many words do they have? What do their thumbnails look like? What is like the look and feel of the thumbnail? What is the look and feel of the packaging? Is it like them sitting like this VR, or is it like a vlog styled video? And you have to go down this deep rabbit hole, which again differs not just by niche and genre, but also by platform. Like you do this on Instagram, it's extremely different than if you were to do it on YouTube.
Yep.
So that's kind of the niche analysis that you talk about, that they also talk about in their videos. And I think this is like, maybe we could do like a future video doing a deep dive into this, because now in the past 3 months I've gotten to, I'm also doing a course that, you know, gave me so much insight into doing this. That I have gotten to know, like there's so much to it than just, hey, like going to someone's Instagram and be like, oh, he made a video on this. Right? It's not that simple. True. It's so much like deeper. But that's the first part that you need to do, right? So on the creative side, sure, you can start making videos. But if you want to do this seriously, like if you want to take content as a career, or if you want to take content as a significant way of driving value for your business, you need to be able to like do this market analysis and market research for your niche, which I thought was kind of obvious, but a very underrated thing that not enough people are talking about.
True. And I just want to hit back on the part where you said you have to be very surgical about this, but also at the mind you have to be really surgical, but at the heart you want to always make content, because I think the surgical part runs out once your videos don't work.
I would actually disagree. So I felt like this, right? So I'll tell you my thought process. So for me, I feel like, okay, so this is a trend, I think, in my opinion, that everyone wants to feel heard at some point. Like that sense of validation is there.
True.
Right? Especially for whatever, if you didn't get attention when you were young, or, you know, whatever, if you had like some childhood trauma, you want to be heard.
Yeah.
So if you want to feel heard, you want to just say things, right? Like you want to be like, hey, I want to say this. Yeah. So again, you're not thinking about the audience, you're thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
You need to get this out of your system.
True.
So I remember I somehow got in contact with Vinamra Kasana, Dostcast, right? And I was on a Zoom call with him. I'm talking with him.
Okay.
And I asked him this, that, hey man, I want to do a podcast, but I feel like the guest, like it's difficult to engage a guest, right? Like he doesn't ask me questions. And I'm like, bro, why will he ask you questions?
Yeah.
And I was like, but bro, I have so much to say. He's like, bro, if you want to do a podcast, you cannot have anything to say. Like you need to be able to like sit down, speak for only like 1 minute, like 10-minute segments, and get the other person to talk. And I was like, fuck, okay, maybe like a podcast right now is not the thing for me. Maybe I need to like get this out and then do it. So come back to the creativity point. I think creativity is also very similar in that way, right? Because there's like this inherent need for you to like make videos that are quote unquote creative. For me, there are. So I feel like rather than every video being like really creative and fulfilling, I need like 1 in 10 videos to be like that. Like if you remember, I put out like a mental health reel 2-3 days ago. Yeah. That was that for me.
How is your mental health after that?
It's great. Now that I put it out, it's great.
Okay.
But that was that for me, right? Like, it doesn't have to make sense. It was not optimized for any metric.
Right.
It like rationally, I should not have put the reel out, right?
Right.
But I just wanted to get it out of my system. I had an idea. I had this thought. Like I did the edit and I spent a bunch of time on it. So my opinion
Exactly
is that,
why I made that point, because I think your voice to make video shouldn't go. I think that's where people reply to.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was
Fair
the
enough.
point.
So like you have like, yes, you need to focus on the metrics to like build longevity and all of that.
Right.
Keep it creative, but don't like, I don't think if you want to really make money in this process in whatever form, you're doing it for yourself, for someone else, you're consulting, strategy, whatever, you need to be able to at some points take a step back from creativity.
True.
Because not every video will be creative.
Yeah, obviously.
Right. So
like creativity is probably the engine, but the car doesn't just run on the engine.
Exactly. So it's kind of like if let's say you're in production, it's kind of like saying that every video that you take, every picture that you take is going to be like this amazing composition.
No,
it's not. Sometimes you have to go to corporate events to like fucking get like
but it's just the same thing happening over and over again. But
exactly,
do it for the money,
right?
Yeah.
So I would say it's 80-20, where 80% it will be mundane and repetitive, and that's the shit that works.
Yeah.
It gets things done, it moves the car forward.
Yeah.
But it's 20% that like you do it for yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Is the same for you, or like do you think about it differently?
I think it's more of the balancing how inclined are you to doing things in an X way to Y way. Sometimes my gut feelings have done better than like whatever analytics I have done. So I think I'm a little biased that way. That's
No,
why I feel like,
I think that's where, like, if you're a strategist or you're a content person, like that's the creative part of things, right?
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as, hey, like Colin Samir used that one iconic animation.
Yeah.
Or they use like the black and yellow combination.
True.
Right? That kind of really stands out and becomes part of their
identity. Yeah.
Voice or expression.
That is that.
But 100%. You mentioned something else, which was formats, which again was something that I did not think about at all for Gyan Central. But now looking back, it makes a lot of sense, right? That either
you actually hit the sixer when you selected that format.
Yeah. So either you think in formats or you adopt formats every now and then. So for example, right now on Instagram, this format of, hey, like day 100 of 10 lakh challenge or day 100 of like building my startup or something like that. That's really, really booming. Right? Yeah. So that's a format that you
100 days of finding new tech.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you'll notice even with AI or a lot of these personal brand people in the past 1-2 years, they have gone viral because of this 100-day thing, right? Because they were like, hey, like, let's do this 100-day. And then they pivot into something else because it stagnates. But what do you think? I think you have some strong feelings about formats.
I think your like creative voice doesn't change that much in like that short of a span. You can adopt into things, but I think like the way you do things, the way you tell stories, that will never change. So like the format is more like what I can pull off,
right?
And what I can do. That's what you should be concentrating on.
What really speaks to you?
Yeah, like for me, I don't think I'll be able to do short form content that easily. Hence, I don't think of doing short form content right now. Like I'll see like how it actually fits into the whole picture. Then once it clicks in my mind, I'll be able to do it, I feel. What do you think?
I have another hot take here.
What?
So I still am.
Right.
I still am a huge proponent of, hey, like YouTube has to be, that's the end goal. Right? Long form.
Yeah, true.
But the thing is that YouTube is now it is competing not with other social media platforms, it's competing with Netflix and other mainstream platforms.
Yeah.
Right?
It has 10% view.
Exactly.
Watch time.
Exactly.
And where like even Netflix has like
on TV.
Yeah, 8%.
Correct.
Yeah.
So now the barrier for quote unquote a good long form video is very, very high.
Yep.
Right. And I think even from like a pop culture standpoint, long form is not what it used to be. Like it's not what I grew up on.
True.
Right. That's one part.
Yeah.
So yes, I do want to make long form videos. I still make I try to make one video a week, whatever. But I think short form, especially on Instagram, is where kind of culturally everyone is leaning towards, and where it's just becoming so much more relevant. So it's no longer like just random, what are those videos? They're just like people make it just for the views. It's interesting videos. It's interesting content, right? It's people who are making, let's say, personal brands. They're doing these challenges, or even the more and more research that I do, the more I realize that, fuck, man, people are doing some really. I mentioned the course, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you who all are there in this course. So there's a guy who's handling the social media page for an American cereal company. So like cornflake cereal.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
There's a girl who manages the social media for this. So they rent out, like her company.
What is the name
out,
of the course again?
It's called Cut 30.
Cut 30.
It's by this guy called Orun John.
Okay.
He's like this designer type of person.
Okay.
So there's this other girl who I was talking to. She manages the social media for this page, for this company that rents out supercars to Gen Zs to drive on a track. So like you can go and drive a Ferrari on a track.
Okay.
That's their business.
Okay.
Right? So she makes content for that.
Okay.
There's someone who is the founder of a sports tech company. So imagine like baseball.
Okay.
So they put a camera and while you're pitching, they will look at it and tell you that, hey, your mechanics are bad here.
Yeah.
Like if you do these exercises, your hip movement will change and like you can pitch more.
True.
Like 10% more efficiency.
Right.
Right. And I realized that, hey, it makes so much more sense for like such a niche business to make short form content and quickly get that attention.
True.
And the top of the funnel, like people in the door.
Yeah.
Right. You can't always do that with long form.
True.
Not that you can't, but it's like the barrier is so much higher.
True.
Right? So it makes more and more sense for everyone to consider short form just because it's so much easier.
True.
And then if it works, go to long form.
Yeah.
Right?
I think short form is more like the validation that you have. Like you have hundreds of ideas in your head, but to really understand, okay, what ideas are actually people willing to listen to, shorts I think is like a great way to sort of see that. I think Colin and Samir also mentioned that in the video where
that's
like,
the next step.
Yeah. You figure out, you have 5 ideas, do short form content for it, whatever works, make it into long format.
Correct.
I think a lot of people mention about testing like what they're putting out. I think nobody really talks about how they test it.
Right.
But I think once you sort of figure out like a great way to test, I think nobody tells it out loud also.
Yes.
This is how I test.
100%. And I think this also brings us to the point of how do you find these ideas, right? Like how do you find that, hey, it's one thing to create a meme.
Yeah.
But if you're a creator that's starting out, you can't you don't have an existing distribution to test this out on. Right?
True. Like
it makes sense for you to do shorts if you already have a big page and you want to figure things out. But how do you do it when you have no idea? So another great way that they mentioned was you look outside of the platform. And this is something that people mention even for like titles and thumbnails that we can get to later, right? Which is that, hey, can I look at a movie poster, see what works there, and incorporate that in my thumbnail? John Usian mentioned it, and I was like, fuck, this makes so much sense. Why haven't I thought of this?
True.
Because it's the same, like it's media, it's entertainment, it's the same niche, it's the same audience, but it's a different format, right? So why can't you pick ideas and inspiration from there, pull it in, add it into this format, right? Add it into like a completely new medium of content. So the same thing for ideas.
So much sense when you talk about thumbnails and movie posters.
Exactly. Same for like, let's say video ideas, right? Like why can't we look at, hey, Mr. Beast is doing this on YouTube. Why can't we like do like a short form series for that? Right?
True.
Which is still pretty related.
Yeah.
It could be.
I think anything Mr. Beast related is too overused already.
Right. Fair enough. It could be that, hey, like this TV show has really popped off. Or, I don't know, this like music video is going out somewhere, or like some form of video is working somewhere else. Can we use it here?
Yeah.
This is still such a broad concept. Have I shared, like, I've created a repository of great channels. I think we've talked about, I've shown you or whatever. So it's like a Notion doc. It's like a shit ton of channels that have something unique in them.
Okay.
So let's say it is, and it's all tagged. So I like creating repository. That's how Wikipedia also came about.
Correct.
So I like creating repository. So once you start looking at content from a bird's eye view, right, you start seeing these patterns. So do you know this guy called Anshuman Sharma or Anshuman Fix Your Finance? The guy's name is Anshuman.
Anshuman,
I'm forgetting his last name.
I know him.
His name is Anshuman.
Yeah,
right?
Anshuman.
He worked with Tanmay first on.
He used to come up in his
his podcast
Vlogs.
channel.
No, bro. His meme channel also he came up once.
Yeah, he was managing his the brain channel or whatever, his educational channel, where he used to do these finance videos, no, long form in pandemic.
Yeah, I think first he came in his like meme series.
Maybe, must be.
He was like finance or OP or something. Then he moved into making his
So I
finance
started
content.
seeing him when he was
yeah.
managing this thing.
Right.
But anyway, so he started this thing where he's getting people exactly in a format like this, and he's
Right.
roasting their finances.
True.
I know this because they approached me also. Hey, you're a creator. Do you want to do this? Right?
Oh.
It didn't end up working out. Anshuman.
Oh, okay.
It didn't end up working out. This is like Gyan Settle Peak Days.
Okay.
But that would have been a fucking amazing episode, man.
Yeah.
An amazing feature on his
Right.
channel. But this happened, and then I came across randomly this other American YouTuber.
Yeah, I know.
Right? And his name is Caleb.
Caleb,
He does something. I'm forgetting his channel's name. We'll put it up on the screen. But he does exactly the same thing. And I was like, dude, fuck, man. Like, are people taking like Anshuman as an example? That's amazing.
Yeah. But I think it's the other way
It
around.
was the other way around.
Yeah.
It was the other. And then that's when I realized, dude, I'm 10 episodes deep, and I not at even a single point did I think that, hey, this is exactly the same as that other guy.
Yeah.
So, it brings me to another very interesting point, which is, do you know Virgil Abloh?
No.
Okay. So Virgil Abloh is a prolific designer. He was the head of, I think, Louis Vuitton at one point.
Okay.
He was head of Kanye West's designer brand. I think Easy, whatever. Like a insane, very heavy hitter. He passed away, unfortunately. But he had this rule called the 3% rule. Right? So Virgil Abloh's 3% rule says that you only need to change an existing idea by 3% to make it your own. Now, when we think of ideas, right, we're talking about, hey, how do we find ideas?
Right.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
True.
You don't have to go out and be like, hey, I created this like cheap versus expensive format that started off by BuzzFeed in their Eater series.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. You just have to change it a little bit for your audience. So even as simple as, hey, Anshuman took something that was working in the US audience, applied it to India, right? It works.
Yeah.
Do you know that guy who goes and checks out people's houses?
Yeah.
Forgetting his name.
Yep.
You know, there's an Indian channel that does exactly that.
No.
Exactly that.
I've seen Brat do it a couple of times, but not exactly a channel.
Brute or Brut, whatever. They do long form videos, right? No, I found a short form guy.
Okay.
And maybe if we find it, we can put it up on the screen. He does exactly. He stands in front of the house. He's like, hey, you have an amazing house. It's in Bangalore. Can we take a tour? And it's like a bunch of B-roll taking tour. And I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, you don't even have to think. You literally just do what's working somewhere else.
Right.
And it is not copying. You don't have to think of it as copying because it's not. Because it's working for you in an entirely different place. It's only copying when you're directly competing with someone.
Yeah.
So if you're in the US copying Ryan Trahan's videos, that is copying.
But I don't think you can copy his videos, I feel. Somewhere it's very hard to copy, right?
Exactly.
Ryan's
you can't copy.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, there is like someone did that, like word for word, scene for scene, they copied his video, which is fucking insane. But anyway.
Did that work?
Yeah, it did.
It worked?
Obviously, the video went viral.
Crazy.
Colin Samir have a video on it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, is there a breakdown series of things that happen?
No. They have a video with Ryan Trahan where he was like, dude, why is this happening? What do I do? And yeah, it's an interesting video.
Okay.
But anyway, so on the ideation point, right? My entire point is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to ideas and thinking of these formats. What you really need to do is look at something that truly resonates for you.
Yeah.
Look at something that's already working for someone else. Change it by 3% and make it your own.
Makes sense, bro.
Yeah.
And it saves you a ton of time also.
Correct.
And the stress.
Yes. But what else? What else was there? I think there was an 85% rule that you were talking about.
Yeah. So
what was that about?
I think after the 7 points, they mentioned this 85% rule where after your content is 85% done, you put it out. Don't waste your time on the 15% because you can spend months.
Correct.
You won't reach anywhere. You just put it out after 85%. I think that's what we did with our previous episode also. We reached that 85% mark where we did the content creator and everything. We were like, what true. I think we would have spent like a month more, but still haven't reached like that end of it.
Correct.
And I think that really moved the needle also. Like, okay, first push it, then we'll see what happens.
There's that quote, right? Done is better than perfect.
Yep.
I think that's the perfect representation.
And I think that's how people have to start thinking about content also.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, you are creatively inclined of doing XYZ things, but stick to your deadlines.
100%. You know, the ironic advice that I would give to anyone listening is don't listen.
True.
Do.
True, bro.
So if you go out and just make like 50 videos, right, which is not a lot, it's like 2 months worth of effort. Just go out and make 50 videos and then come back to this. It's going to be so much more valuable to you than when you just listen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mental masturbation, right? Like you're listening and you're like, fuck bro, I'll do this, I'll do this. Amazing. But if you don't do it, there's no point.
Yeah, because advice sounds great though when you're listening to it. I think until you do it, you don't even get a sense of what is happening.
100%.
That is true. I mean, also it's a great way to procrastinate, I feel. Mental masturbation is like a great way to procrastinate because you feel like you're learning so much.
Totally. Actually, yeah.
And I feel like we are talking about this because I think we are doing this also because we have passed that phase of like we have been listening to too many things and now doing it.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like this entire year, I don't think I've made videos. Like this month, I've started making videos. Like these 2 episodes, and like I've made like a few videos myself. But yeah, totally. So we're trying to practice what we're
trying to practice what we've been.
Okay, so do you know these guys, Henry Belcaster and I'm forgetting the other guy's name. But they create like these animated shots. So they'll come into the frame, they'll pull a green screen, and they'll have like these.
They have this post production company also, Clipped.
It's clipped.co.
Clipped.co.
CLIPT.
Yeah, you can hire a personal manager to edit your. This is
so
insane.
They have like a podcast series, right? They've made like 500. It's insane. It's 500 episodes.
Okay.
And I follow this other podcast called My First Million, and these guys like really like, you know, those other 2 guys. So My First Million is like Sean and Sam.
Okay.
It's a business podcast. Highly recommend.
Okay.
So they are like mentors to those 2, right? Because those 2 are kind of our age, right? I think Henry is like my age. He's 26, 27. So they asked Henry that, hey, you're making this podcast. No one is really watching. What's the point? Like, why are you making this? Like, it makes no sense. So he said, I'm not making it for someone to watch it today.
Right.
I'm making it to create a binge bank. So what is a binge bank? Binge bank is something that you have online that people can go watch to know more about you at a later point in time. So it's like you are front loading.
For a possible future.
Yes. For people to get to know more about you later. Like it might be, hey, you're doing some event and you're like, hey man, I have a podcast. And someone goes, they watch a reel, they watch a video, and they're like, fuck dude, so watch is amazing. So I look at this podcast that way. That,
right.
Hey, first 10-20 episodes may not hit. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's because we're creating a binge bank, right? We're practicing what we're preaching, and hopefully by the 30th, 40th, 50th episode, I'm fairly certain on either of our skills, both of our skills, to have figured out enough to be like, hey, like
we know now
making
to make
1%
a decent
changes
podcast.
To making a decent podcast. If we stick with it that long, it is.
True.
But coming back to what we talked about, is there anything else from that Colin Samir video that really spoke to you?
I think I made a lot of points, bro. Was there something specific? Like, we'll just run through a few points that really resonated.
Works.
So you go one, I go one.
Sure.
What are something that resonated with you, and why? Like one line.
So one thing that this is like an additional thing, but I love frameworks and I love blueprints. So just like, hey, like step 1, 2, 3, what you need to do. So one thing that they mentioned was CTR, right? So everyone knows that CTR is click-through rate, and that is how many people are being shown your thumbnail versus how many people click on it. So the higher it is means the more people that see it are clicking on it. And everyone says what's a good click-through rate, but if you look at on the YouTube dashboard, click-through rate is not a singular number. They give it to you on a time frame, right? So on this day it was this, right? So that means they want you to track it. It's a variable. It might change at a later point in time. Right? So I've always had this question that, hey, like, is there a benchmark? Like, should I know that, okay, in the first day it may not be high, but after like 30 days, if it's high, then it's a good video. Like, how do I think about it, right? And no one really talks about this. And they mentioned this framework, which I really liked.
Yeah.
They said on the day that you upload the video, your click-through rate should be more than 10%.
10 to 15. if I'm precise.
10 to like more than 10%, minimum 10%, right? After 7 days, it should be more than 7%.
Right.
And after 30 days, if it is more than 4 to 5%, you have a good video.
True.
Right. So that means on the day of your launch, on the day of publishing, of everyone that it showed to, which is generally your subscribers / a little like some more people, 10% of them converted. They wanted to watch the video. It was interesting enough, right? After 7 days, it was 7%. After 30 days, it was 4 to 5%, meaning more people saw it. Of them, less people clicked on it. So that was the one thing that I really like, that, hey, like, you're not just like giving us random gyan, but you're giving us step-by-step instructions to how I should think about this. Cool. So that really stood out for me.
And I think just to add on this, they also mentioned that they keep going through their old videos, and if they don't like, because they have learned so much about thumbnails and titles, they just revisit that and redo those things. Which is, I think, great, because you've put like hundreds of hours doing 100%. The video. I think doing this is like a great exercise 100%. To know.
That's actually like a thing in itself. I'm pretty sure in like 2-3 years time, that will be like a job, like a major job role of someone who is managing this.
100%.
What stood out for you?
Specifically, their 100 titles and log lines. It's like, make it a habit to write
iterations. I think that's what you did for this podcast also, right?
Yeah. I just like get up, write about things that I want to do.
Right.
Like, keep writing, write a title, write a log line. I think not just a title, you should always write a log line also right after the title. Just write, this is the title, like title. Things that help in production. That's the title. I'll write one log line. I write 10 log lines and I try to work on those 10 for like a couple of minutes. Like say 30 minutes, I'll just sit on it. Whatever resonated most with me, I'll just try to work a little more on it and see if it's actually like something I want to do. I'll do that with a couple of other things. There'll be something that hits.
Right. Also, for someone who doesn't know, like, why don't you tell people what a log line is?
Log line is your North Star of the video, I feel. That's how I think about it. It's about, so the log line is what you are going to do in the video.
It's like a one-liner.
Yeah.
So where it comes from is this book called Save the Cat. So it's like a very popular screenwriting book for movies.
Okay.
And the way that they explained it, I read the book, so I really liked it. The way that they explained it was that if you were, let's say you like back when there were newspapers, right? And you're like, hey, there's a movie today. Let's say you're reading the newspaper and you tell me, hey, there's a movie. So my question would be, what's a movie about? Right? So what do you say? You say one line to convince me that the movie is worth watching.
True.
That you like it, that I should also watch it.
Right.
That is a log line.
Right.
So you need to be able to explain your entire video in one single line and make it interesting enough for someone else to also watch it.
True.
Which is a North Star.
Yeah.
Right? So everything that you talk about needs to connect back to that line.
Yeah, perfect.
I think we covered.
I think we covered most of it.
Mostly things. I have this one thing that I've highlighted, which is, so everyone says that, and this also applies to the advice thing where you talked about, right? So everyone says that, hey, you need to meet other people, you need to meet like-minded creators and like-minded, whatever, people like you to do great work. But there was a line in the video that said, networking overrated. So do something great,
right?
And your network will instantly emerge. Which I resonate with so much because it's so easy to like sit, not do anything and be like, hey man, you're doing something great. Like, can you help me out? And I'll be like, no. Why will I help you? Like, you're not doing anything. Yeah. And it's not just me, right? It's actually me on the other side of things.
Right.
Where I'm not doing anything and asking other people to be like, hey, can you help me out? Give me advice. Give me like, mentor me. But why will they?
True.
Because they have no incentive. Because you're not doing something exciting. So the minute you start doing something exciting, like it becomes, Varun Maya talked about this concept that I really like a push versus a pull. Right? So push is you're going out to people, you're telling them, hey, I'm this, can you help me? This and whatever. Pull is you're just doing cool shit.
True.
People are discovering it like a binge bank. And they're like, bro, I want to do this for you.
Yeah.
Right? So that really stood out for me. That really resonated.
Yeah. I think my last point is they talked about video structures. Like they have made formats that actually worked. Now they can replicate it. Correct. I think that was like a really cool concept.
Correct.
Which I think like a lot of people do. I think the way they put across the point was great.
Yeah.
It's like, we have done this has worked. Now we have a format that will actually work. If we tweak it, it'll actually work.
If you make a 3% change, we can make it our own.
Yeah, exactly. And they need not do drastic things, but it'll definitely work for them and it'll still stay on brand for them.
Yeah.
So I think
You
it's
know
perfect.
what would be really cool for this video, for the people who have, stuck around this long? If we get a certain number of likes, so just pick like a certain number of likes. If let's say we get
100.
I think that would be pushing it.
No, bro, I want to push it at least a little bit.
No, you can't push it too much. Super Mario effect, bro. It has to be realistic. So let's say we'll do like 25.
Okay,
I think that's more realistic.
Cool.
If you get 25 likes,
Okay.
either we make a video on formats,
Okay.
right? Because I myself, I'm pretty sure between the two of us, we can think of like 50 formats that work, right? That tried and tested, that we have seen, and we break them down. Or we like just share some sort of a resource, like a Notion doc with like a bunch of these formats that people can use and like plug and play, right? And actually, this reminds me of another thing that I wanted to talk about.
Or we'll put out a document regarding this.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. Like a resource or a video,
resource,
whatever.
I think it'll
Like
be
we'll
easier.
do a deep dive and we'll give it to you for free.
Yeah.
25 likes. That's the important part. 25 likes. But this brings me to like another small point that I do want to touch up upon is that when you think of these formats and especially log lines, right?
Yeah.
What really works is like a few hacks that I've noticed. So this is a guy called Jake Thomas. Have you heard of Jake Thomas?
No.
So Jake Thomas is this guy who created, I'm forgetting the name of his website. I think it's Creator Hooks.
Okay.
creatorhooks.com. And what he has done, he has a newsletter and a paywall product. It's like a website that has a list, like he shares 5 thumbnails and title combinations that worked. So he has created like a little mathematical formula, right? Which is very straightforward. It's the video, 2 videos before it, 2 videos after it. He'll take the cumulative views divided by 5, right? So he has the rolling average views of 5 videos. So for every video, he will compare the rolling average of the 5 video, like the
Before it.
call it, of like the 5 video stretch that it's part of versus the views of that video. So let's say if the rolling average was 100 and this video got 200, this means he'll give a score of 2x to it. And he will pick only these more than 1x videos. So he's kind of identifying these viral videos and he's saying that, okay, like this is a video that this is the title and this is the framework in the title. So he'll create a template out of it.
Oh, interesting.
So for example, it could be that Mr. Beast does a video, $1 gyms versus $1 million gyms, or $1 houses versus $1 million houses, right? So he'll be like, hey, the framework here is that $1 X.
$1 Airbnb versus $1 million Airbnb.
So $1 blank versus $100 blank. So cheap blank versus expensive blank. And then you can just like fill it in.
Cool.
So it could be, hey, 1 rupee hotel versus 99 rupee hotel or whatever, right?
Got
so
it.
he does this and he compiles them page by page. So like each page will have 5 good ones, 2 bad ones, 5 good ones, 2 bad ones, right? And so you can literally go and like, I shouldn't say this, but like if you can just go and like pull all of this data, which I've done into a database, you will have like a huge ton of log lines that work. And these are formats and log lines that work, right? This is one. Another one that I've noticed, which is kind of like my little secret, is that have you seen these videos? I don't know how much you watch YouTube, but have you seen these videos where these channels, they summarize movies?
Oh yeah, bro.
Have you seen this?
That's the new big thing, I feel. Like it's
been around for a while. Actually,
it's been the big thing for some time now, I feel. Yeah, movie summary. There are like hundreds of channels which do it.
Hundreds of channels. And I know this because I went down this rabbit hole because I thought I'll start a channel.
I watch a lot of anime, like manga read-throughs. Because it's easy. Manga reading is like crazy ass. I can put this on and just work.
So actually let's do a live exercise, right?
Okay.
Let me pick one of these movies and I'll tell you the title. Because the point is that the titles that they're willing to make for the movies are just brilliant. Like they're amazing log lines. And you will never think that, oh, this is that movie. Like it's better than the log line that the movie made itself. Right. So let me just pull one up.
Movie recaps, you mean?
Yes, movie recaps.
Are you opening the channel Movie Recaps?
Yes, actually I am on movie recaps. Let me look at the most popular video, okay? Cool. This is a very popular movie. Hopefully you will know or people will know. I'll tell you the title. I want you to guess the name of the movie. Okay. Malfunction woke up a man 90 years earlier, but he can't stand to be alone.
Hey bro, Chris Pratt. I know this, bro.
Passengers.
Passengers,
right.
yeah.
right? But like
Jennifer Lawrence,
look at the title, amazing title,
Yeah.
right?
In fact, their first line is also great. Like their log line is literally, you open the video, their first line that they say, insane, I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the way they continue after that is crazy.
100%.
And their like thumbnails is also great.
Yeah,
bro.
the thumbnails are just brilliant. And some of these channels have like these AI powered thumbnails, which I'm just like, bro.
Sometimes it's too much to hide the actual characters, so
Right.
you actually open the video.
Right. No, let's do another one. We'll do. So I don't know if you'll know this movie, but I'll tell you the title anyway. Children are sent to colonize a distant planet, but their mission turns into chaos and hunger for power.
No idea.
So it's this movie called Voyagers, but amazing title nonetheless, right?
True.
This is a new movie, so maybe you know it. Tired of the ultra rich, a restaurant chef decides to cook the guests.
Hey, so this is, bro, I'm bad with names. That's right.
This is the menu.
Menu, huh?
It's like that.
The menu, yeah. Everybody dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the point
In
is.
fact, I should tell this. I should be open about this. I watched the movie recap first, then I actually watched the
Really?
movie. Yeah. I watched the movie recap. It was so interesting that I was like, you know what? I should actually watch this.
We share half of that because I only watch the movie recap. I don't watch the movie.
No, bro. So movie recap is like this litmus test that I do. If I like that, then I go watch the actual movie.
For me, if I
Because it
see
saves me like a couple of hours, bro.
Right. For
When
me,
you think about it.
if I know the story, like there's no point for me to watch the movie. I'm like, hey, fuck it. So there literally used to be a time where I used to just like binge on these things. So I've seen Chinese movies also, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my point is that even doing things like this, like if you just look at these titles, right, and you like create a simple table of the title of the movie recap page and the title of the actual movie, right, and like a general description that you pull from Google, you'll be able to see that, hey, that if that was a description, which is like 50 words, how do I condense it down into 10 words in a way that actually works? Like that's a verified way for you to see that, hey, this is what this outcome should look like. Now, if I were to hide the column, the title column, can I recreate it? Like if I randomly pick one of these movies and I try to recreate, like, can I condense this into 10 words? Can I make it in a way that's as close as possible to what the actual title was, right? So just wanted to mention that because I feel like hacks like that are what are actionable, right? And we talk about...
And I don't think we should call it a hack, actually. I think it's more like how can you make the process easier for yourself to be able to execute?
Right.
Because not every time you'll be able to come up with the perfect logline, but having like, having like a few things that you have already worked on, like if you set processes, I think the whole process becomes easier to be able to do it also.
Right.
Also, one last question. Now that you are working with like as a content strategist also, what is something that really helps move the needle in content? Because like I've worked with companies, but I never see the inside picture, right? Like how do you get to execute content in a company? Like how do you think about making content specifically?
So I think the process that I've learned a bunch in the past few
also
months,
like some actionable things that actually helped you make content.
Right. So I'll just preface this by saying that I still feel where I'm very new to this process of like making content for brands that like truly converts. We haven't done too many views. We've done maybe like 500,000 views in the past month and a half, right? Which I don't think moves the needle too much for a brand, right? True. I would say that if you're in like the 10 to 20 million mark, that's where you truly start to seeing dollar conversions that make sense. And that's kind of where my benchmark is, what I want to do for video, right? But to answer your question, with my experience so far in the past 3-4 months, is that it's a lot of this. It's a lot of creativity less job, right? So it's not me sitting down and thinking, hey, like how can we create like a really creative video? It's understanding the niche, trying to bridge the product market fit versus the content market fit, right? Or the content niche fit, or the content audience fit for that matter. So the product market fit and the content audience fit. So do we understand who actually our customer is? For a lot of startups, that's not the case, right? Because like a lot of people use your product, but do you truly understand who they are? The answer is oftentimes no, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a process. And I feel like if you don't know who your customer is, like if you cannot surgically tell that, hey, like my customer is a 35-year-old man who's sitting in a tier 2 town, who works in this kind of a job, and this is like 10 cohorts that I can identify.
Basically ICP, ideal customer profile.
Exactly. If you don't know that ICP very, very well, it'll be very difficult for you to connect that even in your content.
Just did a brand plug without knowledge.
That's what I believe in,
Yeah.
right? And I think I'm new to marketing, like as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think that's what marketing is, like understanding your customer and trying to get to them in the best way possible. So is it a movie? Is it an Instagram video? Is it a YouTube video? Is it a billboard? Whatever, right?
You're at the experimentation phase. Like
I would still say, and TikTok and Instagram are our largest distribution channels.
Right.
So anyway, like it takes like 3 months. That's all that things stick. Right. So they stick for 3 months and then you have to reinvent. They stick for 3 months, you have to reinvent. So long story short, I would say that you first need your basics right. It's very difficult to do a job like this, even at the level that I am doing, when you don't understand content.
True.
Right? Like I feel like I have a lot of theoretical knowledge that I'm applying and trying to get it to work.
Right.
But if I didn't have this, I couldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've worked with 3 brands now, and unless you have a lot of justification and a lot of belief in what you're saying, right? Even though you may not have, like, maybe I have like 10, 15 million views under my belt, which is not a lot.
Right.
But if I didn't have this, I wouldn't have the confidence to kind of stand behind some of the decisions that I take, right? Which as like the head of a team, I need to justify to the leadership that, hey, like, why are we doing this?
Right.
Like, why are we not going UGC content, or why are we not like making 50 different pages and like just creating 100 videos a day?
True. Cool. I think that's the end of this episode.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do we want to tell anything to the viewers?
I mean, not that we haven't thought of anything, to be honest.
I mean, if you're with us so far,
Yeah.
which is a big
Great
if,
thing.
if you're with us so far, please let us know down below, what does your creator journey look like? Like where you are, right? I think both of us are still on like the younger side with a little bit of experience. And I think creators should not be judged with time, but they should be judged with repetition.
Right.
So how many videos do you have under your belt?
Right.
So let's say I am somewhere in like the 50 to 100 range. You might
I am very less, bro. Like, see, like I've co-worked on things, but specifically me working on any video has been almost nil. So
okay, so you're still on the lower end,
very low.
But I feel like you still have a lot of experience, just like not direct.
Because thankfully I work in an industry where I was exposed constantly to this, but outside that I'm pretty new. I would say.
So I mean, just by osmosis, I would say you're somewhere in the same range.
I would say
maybe not direct.
I am at the third. I'm like 20 to 30 range. Yeah.
So that should be what you need to be tracking. So let us know down below, what does your experience level look like, and what are the challenges that you are facing, right? Because chances are that if you are seeing this, you're probably new to this, new to making content. And if you are new, there is something that you could learn from us, or something that we could learn to then teach you.
Yeah.
And also learn from you.
And also great questions are always welcome. Please send us some great questions so we can also think about it, work on it.
Yeah.
It will be great.
And if you have any feedback, please let us know. And if you really like this, please drop a subscribe. 25 likes and we'll share that resource.
Yeah.
We'll
cool.
see you in the next episode.
See you, bro. See you in the next
episode.